The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Richland, Washington, on your new fire apparatus, job number 32726. Please utilize this 5-digit job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. Let's get started on a brief orientation of your new fire apparatus. Starting down at the front bumper, on the passenger and driver's side face of the bumper, you have dual air horns. Located in the center, you have an electronic siren speaker for your PA system and also siren. Moving to the driver's side, you'll find your mechanical siren flush mounted in the bumper. Moving up to the top of the bumper, you'll find a tubbed storage location that is covered. To the right of that location, on the driver's side, you'll find a swivel 1.5" discharge. Moving up onto the body, you'll find on the right and left side your turn indicator. Moving just inward of that location to the headlight cluster, you'll find low and high beam headlights. On the inside will be the high beam, on the outer edge will be the low beam. Moving up from that location, you'll find emergency warning lights. There are a cluster of 2 on each right and left side. And directly behind the Pierce logo, you'll find the latch to release the hood mechanism. Up onto the windshield, you have 3 windshield wipers across your seamless one-piece windshield. And as we move all the way up to the very top on the bucket of your apparatus, you'll find 3 emergency warning lights. Here's a close-up of that front discharge. It is foam water capable. It is 1.5" swivel. You have dry deck material inside the tubbed storage location for your hose. Here's a close-up of your headlight cluster and also emergency warning lights. Just behind the Pierce logo, you'll find the latch, which is the hood release to gain access into the hood. Let's move up to the very top of your aerial device. You're going to find 3 warning lights forward facing here. As we move down across the bottom area of your bucket, you're going to find 3 running lights, and on the outer edges you'll find single running lights. You do have a 2.5" discharge at the top, which is reduced down to 1.5", and then moving to the right, you're going to find an additional 2.5" discharge. Those are both gated. Moving up from that location, the very center, you're going to find a forward-facing floodlight, and then just to the right of that location, you're going to find a remote vision camera, and then just beneath that, you'll find an opticom. Let's go ahead and move now to the driver's side. We'll get a side view of the bucket area. First, underneath the bucket, you'll find 2 attachment points. As we move toward the forward section, you're going to find on the slight 45-degree angle, you'll find 2 running lights, making up a total of 5 running lights in the front area. Underneath, you'll find rubber bumpers. And then as we look underneath the apparatus, this is going to be just under the bucket area. There are 2 downward floodlights in addition with an aerial drain. Just behind the aerial drain toward the rear or toward the windshield of the apparatus, as you can see here, this is going to be a downward sprinkler for underneath the bucket. As we move to the side, you do have a shoreline inlet, is a 20-amp auto eject. Up in the window areas where you'll find your display for your battery voltage. When plugged into shore power, this will activate, indicating your battery status. Let's move just to the rear section here where your pump panel is located. There are 2 drains down in the lower section for your foam system, and you also have a pull-out style step. Let's move up to the very top. Let's talk about some of the items. We'll start first up in this red section or module, and we'll talk about what those items are first. Down at the very bottom, once again, these are your foam pump discharge drains and also foam pump intake drains. As we move back up to the top, you'll find the 2 orange straps to release to gain access to those cross lays. As we start down here in the red module, this is your Husky foam system. The green is your on-off. You do have foam percentages in a digital readout, and then you also have the gray buttons, which are going to be for increasing or decreasing. There is also a prime, which is kind of a yellow-orange button. There is operating instructions in this same module, and to the very far right, you'll find your system status. Moving further to the right in this same red placard area, you'll find your A for foam level A. This is the indicator for how much foam is in your tank. Moving to the gray area, you're going to find your master intake gauge. This is your pump intake. And then in between those, you're going to find your test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure. They currently have plugs in them. And then to the right, you'll find your master discharge.
Let's move further to the right in the same gray section. This is going to be your Pierce throttle pressure governor. In the upper left-hand corner, if indicated, your check engine will be on. It is an amber color. To the right, you'll find a digital readout for your tachometer or RPMs. And then to the right, you'll find a stop engine, which would be red if lit. Moving down in the orange section is your menu to allow you to scroll through the menu functions. And then to the right, you'll find diagnostic information here regarding your engine. To the right in the red, you'll find a silence button. Moving down from that area, you'll find two pressure and RPMs. This is either pressure mode or throttle mode. Those are the two options you have. In the center, you'll find a digital readout. And then to the very far right, you're going to find your throttle ready. This is a green indicator indicating that it's okay to engage your throttle. Just down from that location, you'll find a green preset button. That is for programming presets for designated throttle or pressure positions. And then just beneath that, you're going to find the wheel, which has your throttle increase or decrease, and in the center, your push in for your idle position. In the very far right corner, you will find an audible speaker. That's what the silence button is for, and it does have the ability to dampen by turning the outer edge of the bezel. Once your pump is properly engaged, this pump engage green indicator will light. You also have panel lights, driver side scene lights, and also passenger side scene lights. Let's take a look to the right-hand side here of this image. Moving over, you're going to find your engine cooler. This is a turn, not a pull. And then just beneath that, you'll find your primer for the fire pump. It's a push to prime. And there are some instructions regarding priming instructions. It's best to be at about 1,000 RPMs to engage priming. Beneath that, you'll find your manual pump shift, and then you also have some warning labels here regarding a fall hazard that you shouldn't ride on the side or climb on the side of your apparatus. Down at the very bottom, you'll find your Pierce minimum maintenance schedule. We'll talk about that in a few moments. We'll go through that in some detail. And just above that, you'll find your tank fill and recirculating line, and then just to the right of that, you're going to find the tank to pump. As we move down further, you're going to find your water level indicator. This is for the amount of water in your tank. Let's take a look to the left of what we were just mentioning. This is your aerial discharge. It is an electronic valve, and then to the right, additional electronic valve for your passenger main inlet. And once again, further to the right, your driver main inlet, and that's also an electronic valve. The controls are above. See your owner's manual for how to operate. Because that's an electronic valve, it does require to have a manual override, and that's the driver's manual override. As we look to the left, you're going to find all of your discharges, your 2.5, number 1, number 2, and front discharge. You'll also find your large diameter, number 1, number 2, and number 3 discharges below that. On the left, you're going to find your manifold drain. You're also going to find your pump information regarding foam. This is a warning label here regarding not to mix different consistencies or types or brands of foam. This is the draft foam tank inlet. And then just beneath that, you're going to find your Watrous pump placard, which is in red. To the right, you'll find your number 1 and number 3 discharge. These are both 2.5-inch discharges. Here's a close-up of the foam inlet. This is your draft foam tank. There is also the lever here which allows you to select the position which you would like to open or close. And then you'll find on the far right, this is your Watrous placard regarding the type of pump, which is a CSU. And then we move down further, you'll find this warning label regarding electrocutional hazard because this is an aerial device. As we move to the pan style door, you're going to find behind that door this yellow handle, which the instructions are on the left-hand side for filling your foam system. And then in the upper right-hand corner, you'll find your foam tank drain. Once again, twist, not a pull. Let's go ahead and move down now to the placard. This is your Watrous placard. I mentioned it earlier. The pump type is going to be a CSU. It does have a rated capacity at 2,000 GPMs. As we move down beneath that area, you'll find your driver's side auxiliary inlet. This is a 2.5-inch female inlet. And then to the right, you're going to find your passenger inlet air bleed, and then all the associated drains with clearly marked and labeled levers. Let's move to the right. You're going to find your pump drain. This is a pull to drain your entire pump. And then to the right, you're going to find the minimum operation maintenance schedule, which we'll talk about next. Beneath that, you have your direct tank fill. Let's talk a little bit about the maintenance schedule here for your pump. It is a 150, 200, and 250 psi test pressures. On the left-hand side, you'll find the associated GPMs while testing at the RPMs on the right-hand side. This also has your job number in the upper left-hand corner and a governed speed at 2,130 RPMs. As we move to the top of the apparatus here, you're going to find the side-facing stabilizer cameras. There are 4 of these located at each stabilizer location. You also have a 200-foot 20-amp extension cord on a reel. This is the cord reel wind button. Just a general view here, you can see the camera down in the lower right-hand corner. Let's go ahead and move to the next section, which are the compartments. First, let's start at the stabilizers, because those stabilizers do move in and out. There is the possibility of crush, and that's what the warning label is there for. There's also an emergency light on those stabilizers. Let's move to the upper left-hand corner of this image. We'll start first with your shore power and also generated outlets. As you can see, the top outlet is going to be for shore power, which would be your shoreline, and then down at the next section down, this is shoreline and generated outlet. On the right-hand side is where you'll find the battery charging system for your unit batteries. This is for your engine. And then just beneath that, you'll find your radio controls enabled switch. When it is green, the radio controls have been enabled. You'll also find the charge, fast charge, and ready light for your indication for your battery system. As we move inside the compartment, this is a remote that can be pulled outward. You have joysticks here on the left and right. They are controlling the ladder extension and retraction, and also left and right, and then also the lower and raise functions. The 3 switches at the very top of this remote are for your stream. In the center is a push-pull button. This is an emergency stop button. Just beneath that, you'll find a green indicator indicating the unit has power, and then to the right, you'll find a slow or fast switch. Let's move down in the same compartment. You're going to find your breaker boxes. These are for the S1, which stands for shore power, which will control everything through your shore power system. Clearly identified under S1. On the opposite side of this location is where you're going to find the G1 panel, which stands for generated power. There are also individual controls for that, and they're labeled here. Let's go ahead and move out of this compartment, and we'll move slightly to the right where you'll find your DEF tank. This is a 4.5 US gallon tank. It is blue in color, and that's the cap for DEF. You'll also find, because of this being an aerial device and that ladder being moved in the upward position, there is the possibility of electrocution because of entanglement in wires. That's what this danger label is here for. Your shelves are also adjustable, and there is LED lighting inside each of those compartments. As we look in between the 2 dual wheels in the rear of the apparatus, you're going to find 4 bottle storage locations. There are 3 visible here, although the 4th is just underneath the center location, and they do have retaining straps. Let's move back to the next compartment. Once again, LED lighting and adjustable shelving in most of your compartments. As we move further down to the right, you'll find your silver cap, which is your ultra low sulfur diesel fuel. As we move further to the back section of your apparatus, we'll find this pull-out shelf. The release mechanism is on the right, and in the upper left-hand corner you have a shoreline generated outlet. We're just now over the stabilizer again, so this is the rear section camera for your rear stabilizer on the left side. As we move to the rear section of your apparatus, the back, you'll find your hose bed lights and rear scene lights. You'll also find access points to gain for your storage of your hose. As we move down, you'll find an additional control module. This is going to be one for stabilizer power, green indicating that it is on. There is an emergency stop button on the left-hand side, and there's also a red indicator next to it if you've pushed that stop button. There's also a protected override switch, and then on the very far right side, you'll find a diagnostic USB interface. As we move through the remote control here, first, make sure you have a green indicator regarding that you have power to the unit. There are controls here for the front, left, and right, and then on the lower section, the rear, right, and left. There is also an indicator if your stabilizers are not stowed. That will be an amber color. You do have 2 buttons in the center for stabilizing the EPU if you need to utilize your emergency power unit, and then you also have at the very bottom a level assist button. There are also 4 indicators that your stabilizers are properly on firm ground, and those will be indicators that will be green in color. As we look to the rear, there are some warning labels here. First, regarding entanglement, that's where those hoses come out from your hose bed. And then there's also not to ride on the side of the apparatus for fall. And then there's once again that electrocution hazard because of this being an aerial device. Let's look down at the very bottom. You'll find an additional warning label here regarding pressurized caps and hazards while opening those caps while under pressure. The large diameter inlet here is for your aerial inlet, and to the right is your aerial inlet gauge. Moving down from that location, you'll find a right to left inclinometer. You want to be maintained in the green section. There is also yellow and red. See your owner's manual for more information on operations. In the pan door here is your aerial drain. We'll cover that in a few moments. And you also have a right and left attached to the frame rails. These are attachment points or tow hooks. There is some warning here regarding utilizing those tow hooks, so please familiarize yourself with that. As we look inside that pan door, you'll find first this ball valve, which is your aerial drain. And then you'll also find for your aerial inlet, this is the relief valve and the set screw regarding setting the pressure for that relief valve. As we look to the rear, these are the ground ladders. You also have the ability for long tool storage. The ladders are also marked on them and also on the left-hand side where they currently store. Let's go ahead and move up to the turntable location. First, let's identify there are 2 emergency warning lights in the rear section, and then there are also 2 rear scene lights located in the image here. Located in the center, you'll find your backup or reverse camera. It is the white camera located in the center. And let's go ahead and move up to the very top of the turntable. You'll find this access door, which we'll cover here in a few moments, and what's behind it. Close up here of your backup camera. This is just underneath the turntable area. Let's go back up to that compartment that we previously mentioned. This is your compartment here for your regulator on the side. This is going to be the regulator, and then just beneath that, this is your air fill location. The compartment I previously mentioned actually is in this compartment, and these are your control valves. First on the left, you'll find your extend and retract. The next valve over is the left to right movement, and then furthest to the far right is the lower and raise valve. As we move to the pedestal itself, once again, there's some warning labels here regarding fall and to utilize safety protection equipment, and then there's also that crush injury because of that hydraulic movement. In the upper portion in the white section, this is the speaker system for your intercom system to the people inside the bucket area. And you can see it's got volume control and push to talk. Let's move inside of the actual pedestal area. First at the top, you'll find your Pierce command zone. Tremendous amount of information here right at your fingertip. Down to the next section is where we're going to find some light control, and then also we'll find aerial speed and emergency hydraulic power. We'll go over those in a few moments. And then you find in the lower section broken down in for nozzle control, and then in the side section here for ladder control. There are some additional warning and danger labels here. Those are also available in your owner's manual for review. And then we'll talk a little bit about this placard on the left-hand side, which is hard to see in this image, but I've got a close-up of this shortly. Let's start back on the pedestal here. This is your emergency stop. Moving to the right, you'll find your manual basket leveling disable. This is a protected switch. And then just beneath that, you're going to find your DC lights on and off, ladder illumination, under basket AC lights, also your front basket AC lights. As we move down to the next section of switches, we're going to find your aerial speed. This gives you a sense of either slow, normal, or fast, a 3-position switch. And then to the right-hand side, this is going to be your emergency hydraulic power. That is a momentary switch which you have to hold to engage the emergency hydraulic power. Let's move down to the next section. First, we'll start on the left. This is your nozzle control for the stream, straight or fog, right and left, and lower and raise. And to the right, you'll find your ladder controls for extend, retract, right, left, and lower and raise. As we move to the left-hand side of the panel, you're going to find this placard for your Pierce 100-foot steel aerial platform load chart. You can see the instructions here: waterway dry, meaning you're not utilizing water, and waterway charged. there are the settings for those for the aerial elevation. Just beneath that, you'll also find monitor nozzle positions. What I would like to direct you down is to the asterisks down at the lower section and to review those asterisks within the owner's manual. Let's go ahead and move to the left-hand side. Base of the ladder is where you'll find your inclinometer from 0 to -10 degrees or from 0 to 80 degrees. On the right and left side of your ladder, you're going to find additional storage locations and also a straight roof ladder. As we move to the fly section of your ladder, on the left side of the fly, you'll find your remote location for axe storage. Let's also look at the bucket here. You'll find multiple storage locations here. The arrows are indicating the latch mechanisms to gain access into those. To the right hand side of the image, you'll find a 1.5" discharge, and then you'll also find these two brackets on the right and left side. These are to store your function module that's pointing at now for better access on the left or right hand side of the apparatus while operating the aerial device. There is also safety locations for your harness connections, and then also on the left you'll find a module regarding your lights and also nozzle control. We'll cover that in a few moments. And then directly in the center, once again, is your ladder controls. To the right, your Pierce command zone. Once again, tremendous amount of information here right at your fingertips. And then just beneath that, you'll find an air inlet. Here's some close-ups of those things we just talked about. This is that 1.5" discharge. Let's look to the left-hand side. This is the emergency stop for movement of your apparatus aerial device. And then also a manual basket auto leving. This is the override, which is a protected switch. On the left, you'll find your under basket AC lights and also your front basket AC lights. Just beneath that, you'll find nozzle control left and right, stream, and also up and down. And then you also have an outlet for generated power located on the left-hand side. All the way to the right-hand side, you'll find an audible alarm. On the outer edge of the bezel is the ability to reduce or increase the sound level. To the right, you'll find an outlet for your breathing air. This is your ladder controls, same as it is down at the pedestal: extend, retract, right and left, lower and raise. And then this is your Pierce command zone. Let's move just slightly to the, I believe to the right is where you'll find your intercom system. This is volume control, and you do not have to push to communicate with this device at this point. You also have a 20 amp, this is for your generated power outlet. And then this is just a close-up looking forward here of the nozzles and all of the attachments located on the very front of your apparatus. Let's go ahead and go back inside the bucket area. You're going to find some warning labels here. There's also LED lighting located inside the bucket. And once again, those safety attachment points. Just beneath that safety point, you'll also find a generated shore power outlet down in the lower section. And then let's go ahead and take a look at the opposite side here. Additional information. Once again, a latch here for personal safety. But I want to point out to the right, you do have some warning labels here regarding the fall. But the silver plaque is what I really wanted to point out. This is the same information that's displayed down at the pedestal regarding waterway charged or uncharged. Down in the lower right, you'll also find an outlet for your breathing air. This is the storage location for your hose for that 1.5" discharge. Let's go ahead and move now to the cab section. You'll find floodlights on the right and left side in addition with your emergency warning lights. As we look to the sides, you'll also find your AC unit just forward of that location. And then as we look just underneath the aerial device in the dunnage area, you will find additional lighting for operating within that dunnage area. Let's go ahead and move down to some of the compartments. In those compartments, you'll find adjustable shelves and also potentially in some of them pull-out shelves. The mechanism for that is on the right-hand side lower corner. You'll also find shoreline outlet, which is also a generated outlet. It's a combination plug. As we look to the side of the apparatus, you'll find a 6,000 maximum allowable winch rating. This is the receiver for that. And then you'll also find bottle storage locations to the rear of the rear wheels. Let's move now to the center compartment. This is just over the rear wheels. And then we'll move just forward of the rear wheels, or I should say in between the rear wheels. You're going to find SCBA bottle storage locations for 4 bottles. As we move to this compartment, this is your pegboard tool board, D-style handle to open Once it's in the open position, on the hinged side is where you'll find the release mechanism. If it's been moved to the open position, you can see the latch on the right hand side here. Let's go ahead and move now to the bottle storage location. Just beneath this is the outlet for your exhaust, and there is a warning label here regarding extremely hot exhaust temperatures, and be cautious as to where you park your vehicle. You also have two folding wheel chocks on the right and left side in this same location. Moving forward in this compartment, you'll also find, once again, generated shore power. This is the warning label regarding that extremely hot diesel exhaust, and to be cautious where you park once again. This is a pull-out shelf, and on the right-hand side is the release mechanism for accessing that shelf inward or outward. In the very top section, you can see the side-facing camera. As we look to the very bottom, you'll see the stirrup-style steps for gaining access to go aloft. Let's now move to the pump panel. This is the passenger side. You'll find a couple warning labels here regarding not riding on the side of the apparatus for fall. And there's also that pressurized cap warning that be cautious when removing caps because they may be under pressure. Let's look to the left-hand side. This is your large diameter pump intake. Because this is an electronic valve, it is required to have a manual override if there is electronic failure, and that's what this is indicating in the left. To the right, you'll find your green large diameter discharge, and then to the right, you'll find the 2.5-inch discharge. Let's move down to the left-hand side behind this panel door. We'll talk about what's behind it next. It's an access door. And then to the right, you'll find all of your labeled, associated, and color-coded drains. This is gaining access to the modules behind the panel for ease of operation. This is a close-up here of that passenger main inlet override. And then to the right of that, you'll find your large diameter and 2.5-inch discharge for number 2. Underneath all of this is once again where you'll find those discharge drains color-coded and labeled. And then as we look inside an additional access, you'll find the ability to change your inlet pressure for the relief valve. As we move up to the crosslays, you'll find these two orange straps. Pull to release the mechanism to allow access to the crosslays. There are 3 crosslays located here, and there's also, once again, a warning label regarding entanglement because of those hoses coming off at an elevated position. Be cautious. Let's move inside the cab. First, at all points of entry of all doors, you'll find additional warning labels. In the 2 rear doors, you'll find these red straps for firefighter assist to getting in and out of the cab for personal safety. You'll also find in the very center of the back of the motor, this is the access for all of your fluid checks for oil and transmission. You will find these candy cane styled labels. They're warning labels regarding loose wires. It describes the wire number so that when you're doing any additional add-ons, you can reference those through the job number. This is the access panel for the oil and transmission checks. Just a quick view in the center of the cab here and on the sides. There are push on and off red and white lights. In addition, in the cab compartments, LED lighting and adjustable shelving. Let's go ahead and go back outside of the cab. We'll move to the right. You will find a bullet-style side-facing camera located here. There's also grab rails, once again, at all points of entry for your apparatus for personnel. And then to the right, you'll find your door latch. It is a keyed door latch. Let's move inside to the passenger or officer location. On the right-hand side, once again, point of entry, so you have those warning labels. Your vehicle is equipped with a supplemental restraint system. So this panel is access to all of the modules and components, but it's also indicating to reference the owner's manual regarding the mounting of equipment, and because of that supplemental restraint system, you should not mount anything within this area. On the left-hand side, you'll find your air horn, mechanical siren, and siren brake. These are all push buttons. Just forward of this location on the center console area, you'll find once again that candy cane spare wiring behind the panel. It also has the type of wire and what type termination it is. And then you also have 12-volt access. These are 2 in the silver are barrel style and forward are USB. In the very front section is your vehicle data recorder. Overhead, you're going to find once again that warning here regarding spare wiring behind the panel. But just a quick view here of the items up here. You'll find on the left-hand side is your Kenwood system radio. And then to the right, you'll find a set of switches, emergency master, driver side scene, passenger side scene. You also have rear scene. And in the lower section, you have your mechanical siren. And then there are 3 future switch locations if you choose to add at any point in time. Let's go ahead and move to the right of this location. You'll find your AM/FM radio. And then let's move now to the driver's area. You'll find, once again, a point of entry for firefighters, those warning labels. And then you'll also find warning labels regarding the use of seatbelts. The seatbelts are red in color for easy identification to see if people have them on. But I would like to direct you down to the lower right corner about ankle level. You'll find this placard. It is the Pierce manufactured schedule. It has the date of manufacture, the job number, gross vehicle weight ratings. It also has tire inflation, and it also has your VIN. And then at the very bottom section has fluid capacities for the components, fluid capacity, and also fluid type. On the left knee of the operator, you'll find your tech module. You'll find a display module, engine diagnostics for your transmission and ABS ports, ABS diagnostic switches, and also your engine regen and DPF regen. Let's move to the right of the steering column. This is your interaxle differential lock. Once it's engaged, it will illuminate red. In the left-hand side of the steering column, you'll find your hazards or emergency flashers and your start and ignition switch. To the right, you'll find your emergency master, headlights, and also panel rocker switch. You do have a tilt and extend steering column. And then to the right-hand side, you'll find your OK to engage the high idle. That will be green in color once you've engaged. To the center, you're going to find on the left your transmission oil, DEF level, and water temperature. The 2 center gauges that are large is your tachometer and speedometer. To the right, your voltage, fuel, front and rear air, and then you'll also find diagnostic information above and below the speedometer and tachometer. Let's move just to the forward section on the dash. This is going to be the remote access for your wireless cameras for the front and rear, which was the one located on the aerial device. And then just a quick view here of the center console. On the left, you'll find your diamond pull to apply system parking brake and push to release. You'll also find your Pierce command zone located within view of the operator. And then to the right, you'll find your Allison transmission pad, which has a digital readout. Let's take a look to the right of that. Once again, Allison transmission pad on the left. You will find a set of additional switches, load manager, stabilizer cameras, aerial master, aerial generator PTO, your platform leveling, and also your generator on-off. Beneath that set of switches, you'll find your engine brake on and off, engine brake low, medium, and high, your mirror heat, front wheel lock, off-road traction, and your front camera. Let's move slightly to the right of this location, and that's where we're going to find your pump shift. On the left, you're going to find a tremendous amount of warning labels down here at the lower section. Make sure you use the owner's manual for this. You're also going to find instructions from road to pump and from pump to road. Once you're exiting the cab of your vehicle and you've engaged your pump, you should have 2 green indicators, pump engaged and OK to pump. Up from that location will be your mirror control and also your air horn. Forward of this position is your climate control for both the front and rear. And as we look overhead of the operator, I'd like to direct your attention to the far left-hand side. This is a placard provided from Pierce as it left the manufacturer for height of 12 feet 7 inches, length 46 feet 11.75 inches, and a gross vehicle weight rating of 82,000 pounds. It also has the job number. If you make any additions to this piece of equipment, please revise this placard. Moving to the right, you'll find your emergency master, roof light, front warning, and side warning. The next section down, you're going to find the lower rear warning and upper rear warning, high beam flash, and then your Opticom control switch for turning on and off your Opticom. Moving to the right, an additional set of switches. You have your mechanical siren activate, a siren brake, an air horn, electronic siren. In the next section down, you'll find your driver's side scene lights, passenger side scene lights, rear scene lights, and then you have a radio on and off switch. Further to the right, you'll find your PA system and also your electronic siren control. Congratulations, Richland, Washington, on your new apparatus, job number 32726. If you have any questions as to the content of this video or any further questions regarding your apparatus, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative. Congratulations.